Do you take Little League pictures? Do you get overwhelmed when you've got 11 little monsters staring at you, acting like wild banshees? Does it make you take way too long for the shoot? Well, today I'm going to show you how to simplify things. Okay, so the time we recorded this, it is spring, and that means for me, that is baseball season for my kids, and that means taking baseball pictures. So I do a lot of Little League, a lot of travel ball. We're going to use that for one of our examples today on how to make things run more efficiently. I think we've all been there, especially when you first start out and you've got all these great ideas in your head, and then when you've got a team of 10, 12 kids sitting there waiting for you to tell them what to do, and when they're that young, they may not always be behaving. When they're older, they might. But either way, it's still a very overwhelming thing whenever you have to run a shoot and you've got all this stuff in your head and it's all getting jumbled up once the pressure kind of hits. So it's always good to have a plan, and it's always good to be prepared, which I am not always good at, but over time I've kind of developed a way to think about things logically and how to make them go faster so that everybody gets done in a timely manner, because coaches hate photo day. I don't care if it's Little League or if it's a high school or college team. They want it to be over with. They want cool pictures, but they don't want to spend a ton of time, or at least not as much time, or not more time than necessary to get them done. So the way that I like to think about it is what makes sense, what order is going to be the fastest. And then also you need to plan the shots ahead of time so you're not going back and forth with locations. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, here is a shoot we did last night for the Murray Heat, their 11U travel baseball team. And we were lucky, we got to do them at Murray State University, which is a really nice field. It's a Division I college baseball field. Normally I would be at a Little League park, but this was really cool that we got the opportunity for this. So their pictures turned out, they would have turned out good anyway, but even better because we're on a nice field. So I picked one or two from every setup so I can show you the order that I went in and then what we got. So I always like to start with the team picture for a couple of reasons. Number one, hopefully everybody's there. That's always the key, is everybody there on time, because it didn't happen last night, but I feel like it happens about 80% of the time. There's always like one person that's late. And so that makes it a little bit harder to do this because they're ready to get going. And you're honestly wasting time if you're just sitting there waiting for somebody to show up. But if everybody is there, which you can stress that they be on time, hopefully they will be, then the team picture makes sense, because once they get done with their individuals, because you'll do the team, then you do the individuals, then once they do their individuals, they're done. They can start practice or they can leave, either one. They don't have to wait around, because if you do the team picture last or in the middle, then everybody's going to have to wait for that. Nobody's going to be able to leave. And when you have kids like this, little kids or younger kids, especially boys, they're going to run around acting crazy, because that's what they do when they're 10, 11, 12 years old. So the more that you can get to go either practice or leave, the sooner the better, because that way it's not going to distract the other ones. That's the main thing that you have to worry about, is the distraction, because it will be. They'll be off playing and wrestling most likely, and then that's going to distract the kid that's getting their picture made. So we do the team picture first. So in this case, what I look for is I want the sun always to be, I don't want it to be in their faces. So it was sunny yesterday. We were shooting close to sunset, but still, you don't want that in their face. So that's why I chose it behind them. And then we did a location that was pretty much right between the pitcher's mound and second base. So I'm going to pull up the video real quick. Actually, before I do that, let's go to Photoshop real quick. And I kind of made a diagram here with a field. So number one, there's the team picture right there in between pitcher's mound, second base, and the sun is over here, camera right, about 45 degrees, so it's hitting them in the back at a little bit of an angle, which is perfect. I lined them up here rather than at home plate because there were some stands back there which don't look bad, but you weren't going to see a ton of sky. So I wanted to pull them off so you could see that, number one, and then number two, there were stadium lights on each side, and I framed them with those. So let's go back, let's go to the video real quick. And that's actually the last one. Okay, so here's the team picture. You can see where they're angled. This light's going to be in the picture, and then the one directly across it. So you can see where I've got my lights here, and I'm sitting down. I've got my camera. I don't have it all the way on the ground. It's close to the ground, but when you put it all the way down, it's a little bit too tough of an angle sometimes. depending on what lens you're using. So this is perfect because I'm going to get the lights and the sky and the stands, but the stands aren't going to be really that big. So that's what the behind the scenes look like. And then now I'm going to show you what the final picture looked like right there. Okay. So the key was to get them in the right spot where these lights weren't too big or too small. You can still see them and they weren't way over to the side. You know, there's a decent amount of space there, but not too much, and you can still see them. So they're placed nicely. You don't want them coming out of somebody's head or anything like that. So there's the first spot. Okay, so after that, we did the individuals. It's worked out, everybody was there, so we got that done. So we just walked straight back to home plate for the individuals because so I told them that we were gonna do 3 or 4 setups, and they could do action shots if they wanted to, and they got to pick what we did as long as I agreed to it. So number 1, hitting, which is the most obvious one. Everybody's gonna wanna hit, most likely. Now, if it's an older team and you have pitcher only, some people that pitch only, then they wouldn't want to, obviously. But a little league team, especially a travel ball team, they're all gonna hit. So that's one I knew everybody was gonna do, so we did that first. All right, so we just walked straight back to home plate. So if we go back to our diagram, we turn on the second one here. So not only that, but we had a couple catchers, which most teams, all teams are going to have a couple. So they may not always want to do catching pictures, but you know, you need to ask them, do the catchers, do my catchers want to do a picture with their gear on? Most of the time they're going to say yes. So the hitting and the catching obviously is going to be in the same spot, right? And then the other one that people like to do is the bat flip. Spelled bat flip wrong. There we go. Okay, so those are all in the same spot, so it worked out perfect. So we just walked from here back. All right, so let's look at the behind the scenes video for that real quick. Okay, so there's the hitting one. So in this case, I set in the left-handed batter's box. That's another thing too. You want to have all your righties go at the same time and all your lefties go at the same time. It doesn't matter which order, but you're gonna have to change the lighting setup most likely. So do them at the same time and tell everybody that, obviously, so they get organized beforehand. That way you don't have to move your stuff back and forth a bunch of times, because if you just let them do whatever order they want, then that's going to happen. You're gonna have to keep moving light, and that takes more time. So we're gonna do batting. I'm gonna have a coach soft toss. I'm gonna get slightly behind them, and so I can see the ball trailing off their bat. Get your lights set up and say we're gonna do righties first and then switch to the lefties, all right? So we just had him toss there until I got my timing down, all right? So that worked out really good. Okay, let's go to the photo so you can see that one. So there, that's not the same kid, but that's the angle that I took for everybody, all right? All right, so I had him framed here between the lights and just a little bit behind him so you can see their face, hopefully. That's always kind of a little bit of a wild card with action shots. You want to see their face, obviously, so you got to pick a spot that's going to work, all right? So that worked out really nice. All right, then we went to the catching picture, which is going to be next. And we don't have a behind the scenes of that because it was basically the same setup. I'm just going to move in front. So I was in the batter's box. Back here, I just moved in front of the plate, actually pretty much between the light and where coach was there. And then I had him move directly in front of the plate and underhand toss the ball to the catcher so he could receive it. So I could get a nice picture of like the pitcher was actually pitching to him right there. So using my wide angle lens, got really close, and we got some distortion going on, which makes it cool and dramatic. So worked out really nice. Didn't have to move the lights or anything. I could keep them exactly where they were. He just, like I said, I may have moved the main light actually to the right just a hair, but it wasn't much, if any. All right. And then so that's our catching, and then bat flip right there. So I'm in the exact same spot that I was for the catcher. I may have backed up a little bit, but the light didn't even move, except I raised it up because obviously the catcher was squatting. So minimal movement there. I didn't have to, the backlight didn't have to, just raising the main light up, and that's it, right? So we did the righties, then had the lefties come across the other way. So we had to flip everything. So I just flipped my backlight and my main light, and that was it. Same thing in the left-handed batter's box. A little bit of a different angle, but the lights are just, they're just opposite each other. So I try to give everybody something a little bit different for their photos so they're not all exactly the same, right? Okay, all right, so we got all those knocked out at the same time, and then, or in order there. And then the next one, we moved out to shortstop for a fielding picture. We didn't do second base because the background was a little bit better on the shortstop side. The parents were over here by the dugout. That's another thing too. You need to make sure everybody stays in the same area that's not getting their photo made, so that they don't get in the background and distract whoever's getting their picture made. Okay, so we moved the lights out from home plate out here to short. Let's go to one of the behind the scenes for that. So here's actually behind the scenes of the left-handed hitter real quick. Same thing, just the other side. And you can see a different view there. Where I'm set up, I was here before, so I just moved over here. Coach is in between me and the light pretty much. And then we have the other kids out there fielding the ball so that we can get them back quick if we run out of baseballs. All right. Okay, now let's go to the back flip real quick so you can see that. So I had them swing, so they go through the whole motion and then flip it and then walk across. I gave them an area where they needed to be when I take the photo, and pretty simple. So I'm having them look out like they just hit it, and it's easier when they actually swing, so they're kind of in the, in the flow of what they would be doing if they were actually hitting. All right, worked out really nice. So then let's go to the fielding picture at shortstop. All right, so basically this one I just had them pick the ball up off the ground and then come up like they're going to throw to first. They didn't actually throw. You could have them throw if you wanted to, but that's not really necessary. It's kind of hard to get that because their arm would be coming across their face from the angle that I'm at. Same lighting setup, cross lighting. I've got a Manny Ortiz beauty dish camera right, deep focus reflector camera left, FJ 800 on the main light with the beauty dish, and then FJ 400 on the rim light back there. I didn't go over that earlier, but that's the lighting setup that I use for all of these, right? And the sun was irrelevant in this one. It's still up, going down. It's kind of behind me, camera left, but it wasn't a factor because I'm overpowering it with my strobes because they've got so much power, all right? So we had them pick the ball up and throw it, and then we had a couple first basemen, which I know this is not at first base, but honestly, to me, it's not going to make that big of a difference. The background at first was not going to be good because there was too much stuff back there behind them. The tarp was rolled up, the parents were back there, so we just did it at short. It's not that big of a deal. I know you can't see the bag, but honestly, there's not a whole lot of people that are going to really look at that notice. They're going to look at the kid, especially because I'm shooting this wide angle, so it's really dramatic, and you see him, and you're not really going to look at his feet, right? So I'm not really that worried about it. If you wanted to, I guess you could use generative AI and go put one in, but I probably won't go to that extent because I don't really think it's that big a deal, honestly. So I think this looks great how it is. And then the other one was we had him throw a couple just real short pop flies like they're catching a fly ball, right? Same lighting setup for all three, except I did flip the light. So this one, the beauty dish is camera right, rim light's camera left. For the first baseman, we flipped it the other way, moved the beauty dish camera left, and then rim light camera right, and then same thing for the pop flies. It was down a little bit lower for these, we raised it up for that one. And let's let you see the behind the scenes for that one real quick. So there's the pop fly. So this one, you got to be careful to make sure that they don't block their face with their glove, which I'm down so low with the wide angle lens. It looked like he would have blocked it on this one from the angle he took, but it actually worked out. I was actually low enough that I got his face, so it worked out really nice. Okay, so now we got the fielding out of the way, and so the last one, pitching would normally be on the mound, so we'd probably have done that right after the team and then hitting and then fielding. Or maybe we could have done fielding, pitching, hitting, depending. But one thing you have to take into consideration is I knew everybody was going to hit, and ask them too, so they know what the options are, so they can pick. Whenever you have something that everybody's going to do, then it makes sense to do that first. Like I said, you want to let them leave when they're done. So team picture, then they're probably all going to hit, so have them all do the hitting one first. And then if you do the next one, say it's pitching, and they're all going to do that too, and then not everybody's going to do fielding or catching or whatever, which catching wouldn't make sense because that's not in order. But if everybody's not going to do fielding, then the other people that are done with hitting and pitching can leave, right? So that's why we do it in that order. All right, so the last one then, pitching on this instance is going to be over here, like kind of in the bullpen area, because they didn't want us to be on the mound because it was a college field, right? So that was way out there in the outfield. So that's why we did it in this order. Team, then these at the plate, then fielding, and then go out to pitching, and then we're done, right? So if you don't do it in this order, my point to this whole video is that you can jump around way too much, and that's what's going to cost you time. Because if you do like if you do each kid individually, then they might hit, they might pitch, they might field, and the next one just catches. Then he catches, but then he wants to do hitting too, and so then you're jumping around everywhere. You want to do them all at the same time. Be very clear about it. Right-handers and left-handers separate, and then get the ones that everybody wants to do the most of first, and then work your way down and do them in an order that makes sense, because you don't want to go out here to the bullpen and then have to go back to the plate again, right? You want to get all this done, then this be the last thing because it's the furthest out. So, and then all your equipment's out here, then you just walk over there by the dugout, pack up, and you're done, right? So let's look at the pitching ones real quick. There's the first one, went all the righties first, and then we did all the lefties, which there was only one actually. So he had to turn around the other way because if I flipped the background, it wouldn't have looked good because the wall was right there in the parking lot. So there wasn't anything interesting there. I don't think there's any way I could have made that look acceptable by my standards. So I just had him pick it backwards because it worked. You know, you can still see his number a little bit in his name. So that, I know that's kind of dark, but I still think that personally that looks cool. So. And then let's go to the video of that real quick so you can see it. So you can see we didn't even pull the tarp all the way back. We just did it over the one side there. Again, trying to frame it to where there's lights in the background so you can have something interesting. So besides, which the sky would have been fine, but the lights are on, let's take advantage of them, right? So, okay. All right, so hopefully that gives you a better idea of how you can work faster and be more efficient and get done with pictures or shoots like this a little bit faster, because you know it's like I said, it's very easy to get overwhelmed when you've got the team show up, because especially if you don't have a lot of experience doing it, it's a lot at once. So have a plan ahead of time, be very clear on the expectations, and tell them you know what their choices are, and then have them pick right there, and so that way you can quickly formulate a plan to how to work the most effectively and go in an order that makes sense and get done as fast as you can. So hope you guys enjoyed that. I really appreciate you watching. If you did, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button down below. And also make sure you go to my website, matthernandezcreative.com, sign up for the newsletter. That way you get notified on all the new content we post. Also make sure that you check out the affiliate links for Westcott and Amazon below. Whenever you guys need to buy any kind of equipment or anything that we use in this video or that I use in general, I really would appreciate you guys using those links, because that's how I keep this channel going. I don't make a ton of money creating these videos, so that kind of helps pay for it with my commission that I get on those, so I would greatly appreciate that. And also, we're going to go over in depth the settings and the lighting setups on Patreon. You can see the diagram and the camera settings on Instagram for subscribers and Patreon for the $5 subscribers and the $15 Patreon subscribers. We're going to go in depth into this shoot so you can see really exactly how I set it up and my thought process behind the whole thing, and then we're going to actually edit some pictures too. So so stay tuned for that soon on Patreon. It's just at Matt Hernandez, and Instagram is at Matt Hernandez also. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.